Hi everyone, I'm Jennifer Beving. This is a Homeschooling 101 in South Dakota video. Today we're going to talk about legal requirements. I've been homeschooling for 8 years in South Dakota. I'm a lawyer. I'm not practicing right now because I'm busy teaching my kids. So I have looked into these laws quite a bit, but just the typical lawyer disclaimer, this isn't legal advice. If you're having some sort of specific issue, you'll want to contact your own attorney who specializes in education law. But I know that we have so many new homeschoolers or people interested in homeschooling and just don't really know where to start. So I wanted to kind of do some video series on what to do. And I think the best place to start is what the legal requirements of South Dakota are. As you can see, I'm sitting outside. I'm in the Black Hills of South Dakota. South Dakota is a great place to live. It's a great place to homeschool in. There are not a lot of hoops that you have to jump through to be a successful homeschooler in South Dakota. Just a couple, and I want to go through those right now. So the first things first, your child needs to attend a kindergarten at age 5 or 6, but definitely before they turn 7. It's up to the family to decide if they want to send them in at age 5 or 6. Second thing we need to do is we need to fill out the notification for public school exemption certificate. This is the form. And that, can you see that? You can find it online if you Google South Dakota homeschool exemption form, and I will link it obviously here as well. So in South Dakota, you don't need any sort of permission to homeschool. This form, once you sign it and you get it to your school district, you are a homeschooler. That is great because in a lot of states you have to have curriculum approved or other sorts of approvals, umbrella schools. You don't need any of that in South Dakota. You literally just need to fill out this form and get it to your school district. So it's important to do that. The form itself is a legal requirement. It is a misdemeanor if you do not fill these out and get them sent in. Questions 1 through 13 are very self-explanatory. Public school district is the first one. That would just be the district in which you reside. If you're unsure about that, just call like the nearest district and give them your address and they'll be able to tell you. So then you list your children's names here. You put gender, date of birth, grade, and then here you put if it's a testing year, yes or no. You have to do standardized testing in grades 4, 8, and 11. And we'll talk more about that. But so if they're 4, 8, or 11, you're going to put a yes there. Testing's not a big deal, so don't freak out about it. We'll talk more about that in a minute. After you get that filled out, you basically have to prove you or your children are who you say they are. There's 3 ways to do that. You have 3 options, and you only have to choose one of these options. You can send a certified copy of the child's birth certificate along with this form. Some people don't love doing that, so if you don't want to get a certified copy of your child's birth certificate, you can do witness signatures. 2 witnesses, and I believe you have to have your witnesses sign. I'm not really sure why the second page is there, but it has a place for 2 witnesses on that page as well. For me, as a lawyer, witnesses should probably be over the age of 18 and probably not reside in your household. But that doesn't say that on here. That's just kind of my general advice would be. If you don't want to go the witness route, you can have it notarized. Sometimes the school district will have a notary in there. If not, banks have notaries, courthouse. So you would just wait to sign this portion, to sign the signature form until you are in front of the notary. They're going to ask for a photo ID from whoever's signing it. Probably best to have both parents. If both parents live in the home, do that. So those are your 3 options. You only have to choose one. Occasionally, schools will get a little confused and they will say, no, you have to provide a birth certificate. That's not true. If you come across that issue, my best advice is to hop on your local homeschooling support group Facebook page and ask some parents there kind of how to deal with it. And work through it that way. But you don't have to. It's not the law that you have to provide your birth certificate. Personally, here's what I've done. I provided a birth certificate because the school already had my oldest child's birth certificate because she was enrolled in a program there prior to kindergarten. So I just did it with each kid, just seemed easy for me. Filled out the form. For us in my county, I just mail it into the superintendent. I only had to provide the birth certificate once for each child the first time I enrolled them in kindergarten, and then I would just put that it's on file. Down here, birth certificate's on file, and then the school district, after I mail it to them, they have someone sign it right here, district representative, and they send me this, they make a photocopy and they send it back to me. And so that's my receipt. You definitely want to get that. I feel like it's really important. I think it's kind of technically the school district's responsibility to get that back to you. I just feel like it protects you. It's your receipt. I mean, there's really not another way to prove that you filed this form correctly. And since it is a misdemeanor, class 2 misdemeanor, to not do it, I feel like it's really important to make sure that you have that receipt. Shouldn't be an issue. Just follow up on it. If they don't mail it back to you, like in 3 or 4 weeks, call them and be like, hey, can I get a copy of that? Mail back to me. Some people will take it into their office, and then they'll probably have whoever in the office accepts it sign it and maybe give you a copy that day. However you do it, follow up, make sure you get that copy. That's your receipt. That's really the only way we can prove that we're legally homeschooling South Dakota. But that signature and that return form to you is not required to be a legal homeschooler. As soon as you turn it into them, you are legally homeschooling. So that being said, that is something that you can take care of right now. You can, if you definitely know you're going to homeschool, you can get that form filled out, get it to your school district right now. You have up to the first day of school, I believe. It's probably a little hectic at schools on the first day of school, so I don't advise waiting to that point. But, legally, that's what you can do. So if you're kind of taking a wait and see approach, there's no real deadline until the first day of school. So your child either needs to go to school on the first day, or you need to have that filed by the first day. So that would be legally what needs to happen. Okay, so let's go on to the other legal requirements. I have a little cheat sheet here. Let's talk about the testing. So it is legally required to test your students who are in 4th, 8th, or 11th grade. So if your child's in 4th grade this year, you would put a Y on the exemption form. And what's going to happen is the school district is going to call you sometime in the spring semester, and they're going to say, or maybe email you, and they're going to say, hey, our standardized testing is happening on this date. Do you want to test with us? You can choose to test with the school. You can choose to send your child into the school district, have them sit in the desk, and have a teacher proctor that test. Totally fine. Some people do it. They find it easy to do. Takes the pressure off from the parents. You can choose to take that test, or the school district will provide you with a test. It might not be the same one, but they'll provide you with a paper and pencil type test that you would bring home and proctor to your students, and then have to get back on a certain date. By a certain date to the school district. A lot of people use that option. Or the third option you can do is you can choose your own standardized, nationally recognized standardized test. You can do it when you want to, and you can return it to the school sometime before they go into the next grade. So that's the option I have chosen, and I will tell you just a tiny bit about that experience. So I was freaking out the first time my child had to take a standardized test. And so I went online and I bought the California Achievement Test online version, and I also bought the practice test. And it's not super expensive. I think I maybe spent $40 total for this online test. I gave my daughter the practice test to see if there was any areas that we were like super weak in. And then if there were areas, we worked on those for a few weeks. And then I proctored the formal test to her. I printed out, you get instant results with the test that I took. I printed out the results and I mailed them into the school district. That was it. It was easy. My child did well, especially after I saw the areas that we were weak on, and we kind of worked on those. It's really, I don't think, a huge deal. It's just, a box we need to tick. It's legal. We want to definitely just, make sure that we're getting those done. If you do your own test, you have up until generally that whole summer after 4th, 8th, or 11th grade to get the test results into them. I tested in the spring, and as soon as I had the results, I just mailed them into them. Testing, just a quick word about testing. Let's say you're doing 4th grade testing in the spring of the 4th grade year. A lot of tests, the CAT test, the California Achievement Test, you would choose the 5th grade test option because they're at the end of 4th grade year, so you test them like they're going into 5th grade. If you had done that in the fall of their 4th grade year, you would have chosen the 4th grade test. So that's something I learned doing that. It might be different for different kinds of tests, but just something to look into which grade year you should purchase depending on the date and where your child is. Okay, so testing required in 4th, 8th, and 11th grade. If you're in any other grades, you don't have to worry about it. Some homeschooling families choose to test every year just for their own progress, make sure that they're keeping up with the standards that they want to meet. So let's talk about that. So what standards, what does South Dakota require you to teach? So in South Dakota, so Codified Law 13-27-3 says that you are required to instruct your students in language arts and math for an equivalent amount of time that your local public school is teaching them. So what does that mean? So language arts and math, language arts, reading and writing the English language. You need a mastery of English language. You have to, they're requiring English being taught, and then math, pretty self-explanatory. So for an equivalent amount of time, there's always questions about that. A friend and I sat down a couple of years ago and we kind of calculated this out, and I think a good estimate of an equivalent amount of time that the public schools teach is about 180 hours a year. So generally, if you're in public school, you're going to need about 180 hours of like math instruction a year, 180 hours of reading, maybe writing. So that's kind of what I like to advise. I think it's a nice, safe number to advise. It's a pretty widely accepted standard as far as how much students study a subject in a year. So you do not have to be certified in South Dakota to be a homeschool teacher. There's no certification, no education level needed. The other thing that I think we should be aware of, it is in the law. This has never come up as far as I know. It's not really an issue, but the state can, upon 30 days notice, ask to inspect your records. And what they can inspect is that your attendance records, that your children are attending school and that they're making academic progress. And so they would need to attend an equivalent amount of time in language arts and math as the public school students do. And then you need to be able to show that you're making progress in language arts and math. And so how do you do that? Like I said, this is not something really I don't think to be worried about. It doesn't seem to be something that we have a lot of issues with in South Dakota, but definitely, me being a lawyer, I do always want to fall down on the correct side of being able to prove things to the state if we needed to. So what I do is I take a calendar, monthly calendar for each child. I have 3 kids, so I get 3 binders, and I print out September through May. Well, we school all year long, so I print a full year out. We started in September, but however long you want to do it. And then I just write in every calendar day what my children have done. So if my oldest did an hour of math, I would say 1 hour of we do an online math curriculum, 1 hour of math, 1 hour of her writing curriculum, and 1 hour of reading. And if you're doing like a workbook, you could just write the workbook in the top, and then you could write page 1 of the workbook. So you don't have to write the workbook name, just page 1, page 2, page 3, whatever. It's totally fine. You don't have to do it Monday through Friday. You can do it weekends. You can go year round. You just need an equivalent amount of time within the calendar year that you're going. So there's a lot of freedom in that. Also, as far as what constitutes like a math lesson, it doesn't necessarily have to be a sit down workbook lecture, pen to paper type math lesson. If you were playing a game that you felt was teaching your children math concepts that you wanted them to learn, a board game or something, that could be counted and you could write that down. So I write those down every day. I try to estimate how many minutes or hours, that they spent on that, just so that we can kind of, if I needed to prove to the state, I could prove we're doing 5 hours a week of math, or, whatever. They don't tell you what kind of curriculum to use. They don't tell you what constitutes a math lesson. So that's really up to you, the teacher, and we have a lot of freedom in that. So that's all up to your interpretation. And then I like to keep, if we do workbooks, I like to keep the workbooks. I date the date we started and the date we finish. I throw them in a tote along with their binder at the end of the year. So each child has a tote and a binder. I keep it for about a year, and I just, I keep it in the closet. And then after about a year, I toss that one out and I'll use it again for the next year. It's just a way, if the state were to come in and say, we want to inspect your records, then I would have those all there. They could see several years worth of workbooks that we have done. Just a way to prove that we're doing, what they're requiring, the law requires for us. So yeah, again, them investigating it doesn't seem to be something that happens a lot in South Dakota, but we want to keep homeschooling really free. We want to keep our freedoms in South Dakota. So we just want to make sure that everyone knows what's required to be a homeschooler. So, okay. So if you have questions on any of this, which you might, you can feel free to leave them below in the comments. Other homeschoolers, experienced homeschoolers, if you're watching this, if you've had a different experience or if you have different ideas, please feel free to chime in. You can make a video if you'd like, or just make comments below and let us know. And please feel free to jump in and help answer questions and things like that. But so any new people, questions, you don't understand something, please comment below. We're happy to help. So, okay, I hope you found this helpful. I'm going to do a couple more videos. Some curriculum ideas and some philosophy, kind of like a day in the life, what it looks like, how much time it takes for us, things like that. So I will try to get those out as soon as I can. All right. Thanks, everybody.